Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Family Business, where we discuss how family intertwines with your careers. I am honored to introduce Katie Arnold and Evan Norton, two rather substantial medical device executives and all-around spectacular people and wonderful parents. I imagine they're both good spouses, but we'll see how that goes later today.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for coming on the show. I'm really glad you guys are here.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, very happy to be with you today, Matt.
When I thought of doing the program, you were the guys I thought of. So it's just interesting that you're here, because this was part of the imagination in my head when someone said, "Why don't you have a couple instead of just a single person?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah." And here you are. So if you each could take like a minute and just give me a quick thumbnail of what you're doing at the moment, because you both have rather interesting situations currently in a professional level. And then we'll delve into all the family stuff. Go ahead, Katie. You're usually first.
So I'm getting nudged to go. Yes, go first. So I am leading Sprague Consulting. I'm very fortunate to have a great team that I've worked with. We are celebrating our 12th year, and we are working with a great variety of medical technology companies. So that consumes most of, if not all of, my professional life. As well as this, in 2021 will be my 8th year as adjunct faculty at Kellogg, Northwestern University's business school, where my spouse and I teach medical product commercialization and financing. So we're starting to gear up for that effort. And then probably most importantly, I am a mother of 3. So school is right around the corner, and we are facing very interesting times, and so that's also very much top of mind for me right now, Matt.
Yeah, us too. Evan?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Evan Norton. I am a father of 3. I'll start with that. Let's see, I recently joined a private equity firm based out of New York City, although I still live in Chicago, called Axelmed Partners. We actually just closed. Had our first close of the fund for $260 million.
Congratulations!
Thank you. And we invest in health tech companies, which is medical devices, diagnostics, digital health, and tech-enabled services. And prior to that, I had a long career running Abbott's corporate venture group. And as Katie mentioned, I co-teach a class with her at Kellogg's Graduate School of Business at Northwestern, and that's what occupies most of our time. I'm involved with a number of other things at Northwestern's boards, et cetera, but that's the predominant use of my time.
All right, so you just had a couple of questions explode in my mind as you both were talking. Do you teach together at the same time in this classroom?
We do.
We do.
As I like to say, it's all of our marital spats played out in front of 20-somethings that consume social media in a way that we don't yet understand. And so I'm sure it's great entertainment for them, and we're still trying to figure out how to navigate it.
All right, so
and Evan might term it that way, Matt. We teach on Fridays, the afternoon classes, and so I call it our date night. So we have a weekly date in the winter quarter where I'm able to spend time with my husband.
Yeah, and then after the class, there's a social gathering. It probably won't happen this year, but typically a social gathering where we'll meet up with a few of the students. There's a organized
happy hour
at the school. So it rolls straight from the class right into this happy hour. And so Katie,
what do you guys tap a keg in the classroom? What do you mean?
Yeah.
It's not in the classroom, but it's downstairs from our classroom.
Good for you.
Yeah, and so we both are alumni from Kellogg,
Yeah.
So we knew about it's called TG on Friday, and so when they asked us years ago when we wanted to teach, we chose that time and day selectively so we could end the class and go down and have time with the students.
Got it. That's awesome. So when I've done some things with my wife like this similarly, and I'm curious if you guys do it the same. What happens when one of you says something that the other one knows it's wrong?
Well, that's, I think, why our class is, and if you're talking about during the class, I
Uh-huh.
think we do, we've never gone into fully CR ratings, although it is a huge reason why you're asked to come back and participate in the school and being a part of the faculty. But we are very lively in the class, and we hold on telling the students that we are married until the second class. So
Huh.
they,
Okay.
and we do it about midway through that second class, so they get a little bit of the dynamic. And many people say, well, that makes sense. So we are not shy to voice our opinions when we have them. And many times they are aligned, but also many times they are not.
Yeah, well, and I think we both come from our perspectives in our careers, which may overlap perfectly and other times don't overlap perfectly. And so seeing both sides of the issue and having an alternative point of view is actually helpful to the class discussion. As I have learned in my life, I'm always wrong, but sometimes I have a glimmer of being so.
Yeah. My wife usually chimes in right after me because I do everything off the top of my head, and everything's on a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I miss stuff from time to time, but she doesn't have any spontaneity. So we work out really well together when we do this kind of stuff. And she'll go, well, and then she'll just pick right up where I left off, and sometimes even counter exactly what I said. But usually when I know she hops in, I'm like, all right, I stepped in it. What did I say wrong?
Yep.
Yeah. That's
We
great.
do prep each other before class on how nice. We have to remind each other to be nice.
Yes.
That's great because to me though, and I wonder if you guys feel this way because you and I have a similar experience. When it's on, it's magic. It's like electric. When we're on the same page and and you could see the class is just leaning in and everybody's asking different questions on different things, and it just, you feel so connected. I imagine you float out of there because that's the way I always feel whenever I've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the magic for us in the class is that we really are providing an academic experience for them, but we also have this very elaborate, connected universe within the medical device space, and so we often feel like we are enablers of people's careers, and because of that, it's super rewarding. So when we're really on and when we're getting people excited about, bringing some of the best and brightest minds into the medical device field, it feels really, we get a lot of pleasure out of that. And then, it pays off in spades because we now have, I call them plants, but people throughout the industry and a bunch of different companies that, have taken our class that, we can now reach out to get perspectives on, whether it's me doing diligence or Katie trying to understand a market when Sprig has a product similar to that, or a client that's similar to that. So that's really when those forces all come together and really make it magical. That's what I usually get the best.
Are they all grad students or undergrad?
They're all primarily graduate students. Yep. The half of the attendance is from Kellogg, so we hold those seats aside for the Kellogg students since it is a Kellogg class. But we want to have the class represent as closely as possible a real life startup scenario. So we open the class to the other graduate schools of Northwestern.
Wow, okay.
And we recruit in MDs, and mainly MD, MBAs, JDs, and engineers.
Okay.
And as you know, Matt, because you work within the med tech field, that really in a medical company, there is the business person, the engineer, many times the clinician or physician, and certainly a lawyer is always involved. We will accept one or two. Here you go. You wanted family.
Yeah, that's the way I like it. That's my house.
We will accept one or two undergraduate students. They have to apply into the class. And so we've been Northwestern, they have got talented students. We've always been very impressed with the students.
That's the one thing that I always say when I walk away from it. We did it at, my wife's an alum of Ohio University, and so we did something similar at OU. And when I walked out, all I thought was, everyone who's worried about the world and millennials, I'm like, just go meet these kids. They're fantastic. Yeah, I'm not the least bit worried after walking out of that classroom.
Yeah,
They're
I know.
so much sharper than I was at that age.
It's really not only sharper, but like they're so put together, the way they look, the way they dress,
and their questions were so mature. I'm like, God, you guys are already thinking about these things?
Yeah.
I didn't think about that stuff till I was 35.
Yeah, so we feel the same way. We get an energy. Teaching is so satisfying.
Wow, that's awesome that you guys get to do it together too. And you can do this for as long as you like. I mean, this is not something you need to have an end game like you're playing some sport where you can only play for so long. You guys can do this for the next 20 years if you want.
Yeah, no, there's a couple of our colleagues. There's a gentleman named Pete McNerney who's a pretty well-regarded venture capitalist and former Baxter executive who's, sort of turned into his second career. So it's and that's a nice way to think about it. Is you can sort of take this out into the sunset, and it's so much fun. And I think the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the bigger the network, and all of the externalities that come with it are pretty amazing.
That's great. So we got a whole litany of things that I want to talk to you about. Katie, if you don't mind, I want to start with you. You have an interesting story. I've known you when you were a product manager and your career was somewhat traditional, and then you decided to blaze your own path. So if you could take a couple minutes and give people a bit of an understanding of, okay, you left major corporate America and you had, your first child, and then Sprig. And I mean, for those of you that don't know, Sprig is this juggernaut of a consulting firm. I mean, I was trying to find the right word because it's just everywhere you go, every conference I go, somehow there's an affiliation. I mean, Katie is quite the dynamo. So if you can give me a bit of a understanding of how that all came about, that'd be a great place to start.
Yeah, sure. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I thought it would be in companies, certainly Matt, that you work alongside with. I never knew it would be a consulting company, something that I'm running. And according to the topic today of why we are connecting here, is that Sprig really was created because of a family reason, a personal reason. Evan and I found out that on our second pregnancy, we were expecting twins, and we were living in the Bay Area, a great place. A company I was with had just been sold to a larger strategic. So I had a bit of time to think about my next move, and was contemplating that move of being a senior marketing person within a private company, startup company, certainly in the Bay Area. And we learned that I was pregnant. And all of a sudden it felt like a square peg in a circle hole of me going and having to give it my all at a early stage company where I would feel stressed perhaps about being at the company working long hours, knowing I was a high risk pregnancy, but yet I'm not the type of person that can just sit at home and put my feet up. Serendipitously, I received a call, and somebody was congratulating me on the sale of the division into the strategic, and asked me if I would ever consider consulting. So really it was a perfect storm, Matt, in the sense that I don't know if I would have been open to consulting if I didn't need to have flexibility in my life at that moment where I could care for myself and my family. I certainly, my very first client was Triton Medical, and to this day, work with, and as we know, people in the medtech space start with one company, but they certainly move around. And so I've been fortunate to keep in touch with most all of those team members and executives and move to their different next ventures that Sprig is fortunate to work with today. But I was able to have a great engagement with a client that showed me I could do consulting and that I actually really enjoyed working in that capacity. And then I also was able to go full term with the twins. The twins were born, the mortgage crisis hit, the markets crashed, and instead of me going back into a company, all of a sudden I got calls that, hey, what you're doing at Triton, can you come help us with at our company? And so before I knew it, Matt, I was creating a firm and pulled in people I had worked with that I know you know as well, to see if they wanted to come be a part of Sprig and to be a part of working with entrepreneurs on bringing technologies to market. So it truly is a mixture of professional but also personal decisions that have me where I am today.
Yeah, well, it's like every other situation that ends positively. It's when the opportunity came along, you made the most of it. And it's just an interesting story because that's not the norm, quite honestly. I mean, Evan, from your side, what was it like knowing that she's in a high-risk pregnancy with twins and she's making this choice? I mean, that obviously affects you guys as a couple and your home and financially in the beginning with a consulting firm. What was it like from your side?
Well, first and foremost, I would say I have a lot of confidence in my wife's abilities. She's very talented. Extremely talented. I mean, I think she laid out all of the things that she does on a daily basis, but she failed to mention how much she sort of manages and runs our life in addition to all the other things that she does. So
I was assuming that part, Evan.
Right. Yeah. She's already just one of those very gifted multitaskers. I mean,
project managers at heart, Matt.
Yeah, she's really is quite gifted at it. So, I mean, what goes through my mind is, I frankly was worried about her. I mean, neither of us are very large in stature, and she's a tiny person, and so having twins.
What's that like?
Yeah, I don't know. You tell me, man. We can probably correlate our comments on that. So my first concerns were really about her health. And then secondly, I was working for a venture firm at the time. And the life working for a venture firm as the junior person as a venture firm is really a apprenticeship type role. It's not it wasn't a, large pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So I was still investing in my career, and she was just starting to put significant investment, both in resources and time, into her career. So it was really probably a looking back on it, quite a perilous time had we not sort of been confident in our abilities and had faith in each other in terms of me keeping the standard job with the benefits, et cetera, while she was able to put in place what was the infancy of Sprig, which has now become, the stable part of our household. So we've almost had this complete role reversal in that, I'm now doing something much more risky, and she's the one with the stable job. So.
I mean, that's what it's all about. Now, I'm curious, your kids are getting old enough. I'm wondering if this transfers down to them. Do they see not the financial success, but the overall success of what you guys have accomplished, the risks you took, and the entrepreneurial side to both of you? Because I always wonder if that trickles down to the kids, or you don't have those conversations yet.
No, I think we definitely we do. You start to see it in different ways, but our son this summer with a friend he's going into 6th grade, started a car wash business.
All right.
So he and a buddy he has really curly blonde hair, and his friend has kind of long droopy hair. So we're trying to make it curly and swooshes car wash, but they wouldn't go for our branding idea. But
what do you guys know?
He basically hit up every family member and neighbor and everyone else to try to see if he could wash their car. So that was probably the most that's rubbed off. Our other two daughters are probably not as entrepreneurial as much as they are sort of into the social dynamics of their age.
Yeah.
But they definitely have picked up on the fact that our lifestyle has changed a lot over the last few years. We moved into a nice part of the town we live in, and we have a pool and other things that they can invite their friends over to. And I think they've started to realize and ask, how do we replicate what you guys have created in our lives? And I think it's been a chance for us to say, well, this wasn't something that was given to your mom and dad. This was something that they worked for. And so this is an opportunity for you to sort of model not exactly what we do with our careers, but that if you really want something and you want to provide this to maybe your children, you may also have to work hard. That's the part that we wanted to really.
Katie, you're certainly set an example for your girls. I'm curious if they ever ask you about these kinds of things, business decisions, and you talking about high-end financial modeling and making significant choices that affect millions of dollars. Like, does that come up, or are they more interested in doing TikTok dances with you?
Well, I mean, to be honest, probably the latter. But, one of the things I think that they do see is that in our household, everything is pretty equal, right? It's not, we don't have the traditional roles. Certainly the mom is better at certain things and the dad is better at others that might be more traditional, but nobody in our household, having two girls and a son, do they differentiate that one would not pursue a career because of being a girl or a boy. So I think that, Evan and I, everything is pretty equal. We understand when at the time, things have to change often. If somebody has to, at the time, hop on a plane and go to a meeting or represent at a company, that's, that then dad is at home and he's in charge. And so I remember, certainly when the kids were younger, that maybe wasn't the norm in other families, that dad could kind of move through with the three kids. But that definitely was the norm in our household, that he could be at home alone or mom could be at home alone with the kids, and it was going to be the same. Maybe not the same.
I was going to say, I still can't do a ponytail. I just can't do it. All I get is ow. Just let me do it.
The difference is, Matt, I mean, Evan is much cooler than I am with the kids. So they really enjoy, he knows all the music and the games so they, but yeah, mom definitely keeps the kind of the rhythm of the household going.
I get it. Yeah, I know the drill. So, with your worlds colliding and then separating and colliding throughout,
yes,
how do you deal with pillow talk? In other words, things that maybe she should or should not know, and vice versa. I mean, look, I don't want you to tell me anything personal, but I'm curious, do you ever stop and go, I can't tell you? You can't tell me? Well, I can't tell you. Like, does that happen to you guys?
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Often. Yeah. I mean, professionally, no, I'm kidding. No, never personally, but often professionally, especially when Evan was at Abbott, we kept things very separate and and quite honestly, it made it easier for us because, we had so much to talk about anyway, outside of our professional lives, that it was never hard to kind of pivot to a different subject. But even, Matt, when you would see Evan and I at trade shows, TCT, PCR, and if we were able to steal a night away, just the two of us, we still put down at the end of the night 2 separate credit cards on the bill. We were very conscious about keeping things very separate, even when we were together. And most people didn't, they didn't get that. But let me tell you, when we were ever asked about things, it was very easy for us to show them the records of, our businesses. We keep very separate.
Yeah, I mean, it was, to be candid, it wasn't the deciding factor, but it was a part of the calculus of leaving a big company, because we had to firewall ourselves so much from each other that it became actually quite difficult to manage. And we ended up sort of limiting Katie's business in a way that she couldn't work for equity or do other things with certain companies. And so because Abbott was as large as it was and had its far reaches, it went into far-reaching places within the device industry, it did limit Katie's business somewhat and limited some of our potential upside opportunities. And so Pillow Talk, even while we weren't sharing things that were confidential, we were having this sidebar conversation of, well, how do we manage where our careers are going in the current construct of which we're working? And one of the ways of creating a opportunity for us was to sort of change the sandbox a little bit. And so that was part of the move outside of Abbott, was to not that I share anything confidential with her, but if she wants to, take on any client she wants, and she wants to be flexible in the structure that she arranges or negotiates, or if the team there likes the work of Sprig so much they want to provide stock options, et cetera, that's now an option, and it really wasn't previously because of the conflicts of interest concerns.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So now you could actually have a glass of wine, not worry about you slipping, and you can just have a conversation like regular couples.
Yeah, but that being said, I mean, and no hard, Abbott is a great company, so we.
Yeah, no, I know.
There's no reflection on the corporation. It's just along with
the
working
rules.
with them.
It was the rule. So we very much are rule followers. In fact, I think that's the other thing our children see from us, is that we have certain standards and we don't have much gray, I think that's very helpful in today's world right now for children to see that set of standards. And we definitely have, and it's been tried on us for many times because our businesses overlap so much.
It's funny that you say that. When I look at both of you, you don't seem like rule followers to me. I mean, you built a consulting company in a fashion and a mode that no one else had done before in the 20 years that I've been doing this. And Evan, you could have gone a similar marketing track and stayed at big companies, and instead you went left and built yourself up into a fairly well-known investor. I don't know. He doesn't sound like rule followers to me.
But that's it. There's a difference between risk-taking and rule following.
Yeah, they don't always go hand in hand, but I'm with you. I know that you guys don't bend rules, but I guess what I mean is you blaze your own paths.
Sure.
And I think what comes with that is kind of ignoring the rules a bit and just saying, well, I know you're supposed to do it that way, but that's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah, the traditions and norms were guideposts, not written in stone for us. I mean, I think for me, I always, I give this analogy a lot. The boardroom of private companies, and there's the finance phenotypes, the hybrid phenotypes, and the grizzled veterans. And so for me, I've always been on this track to try to become a grizzled veteran, because they're the ones at the end of the day, and it's usually independent board members, or it could be very seasoned investors with big firms. They're the ones who have most of the dialogue with the CEO. And so for me, it was always, how do I get to be a grizzled veteran sort of in the most comprehensive way, so I can add the most value in this private boardroom setting? And that to me always led me to a decision of, well, should I take this job where I'll be sort of in this role for 3 to 5 years, or is there a way for me to sort of bend the norm and try to get some of those experiences in another way? And so I agree with what you're saying. I wouldn't say we're breaking rules, but definitely, not doing things in a traditional way. I mean, leaving my career at J&J to go to a startup company, to quickly go from that startup company to a venture firm, because I saw it as a way to sort of get access to a portfolio much earlier in my career, was very critical in defining, the types of risk I was willing to take, and whether that's breaking the rules or redefining your own norms. I've never liked sort of being put in a box in terms of thinking.
No, neither of you guys seem to fit that kind of mold at all.
Yeah.
Now, how do you handle vacation time? You've got a pair of twins. Well, twins are always a pair, I suppose. And you have your older daughter, and then the two of you with all your work schedules. How do you pick where you're going? How do you pick, do all the kids go? Do they get special time with one of you or both of you? Like, how do you juggle all of that?
Yeah. So up to this point, we've vacationed as a family. However, now that our daughter is starting high school, we might have to have, perhaps if vacation schedules are different, or academic or athletics get in the way, that that might be a topic we'll have to have. But we've been fortunate that when we've taken vacations, it's the 5 of us. The majority of vacations, Evan and I are bringing along our computers.
Yeah.
And we are juggling with the family time, though, checking in on work daily, just to keep things moving and to, so the kids have gotten used to that, but they also, every day in a vacation always requires a little bit of downtime or siesta. So we usually, that's when we're plugging in and making sure that we're staying in touch.
Yes. For me in my career, this has probably been one of the biggest struggles. I don't run my own firm, so it's harder for me to break away and structure absolute free time. So, we just did a quick family trip to Wisconsin, Door County, and of the 7 days, I think I got to spend 1 to 2 days with the family. So the rest of the time I was working very, very long, trying to get a deal done. And so your point resonates with me. I try to spend a lot of quality independent time. It's actually created I think somewhat of a bad habit in our household that, because I work as much as I do, I spend a little bit of time with each child every night, sort of talking through their day. And so what's happened is that the nighttime routine has gotten infinitely protracted, because I make sure I do it with each child every night. And it used to be, like rubbing their backs and talking to them. And now it's that was when they were younger. Now it's more turned into a dialogue, but I can tell it's like, I can hear one of them screaming, "They've had their 5 minutes. It's my turn now." It's like I get and it's usually, that's sort of how I try to do it. That's how I do it on a normal basis. And then on vacation time, I try to sort of multiply that amount of time and try to spend independent time with all of them, because it is really critical, especially for our older daughter as she's sort of transitioning to high school, but also just as much for the twins, because they're boy girl, but they still get paired so much conceptually, and a lot of the things that they do, that they actually need that individual time. And I'm a twin also.
Is that right?
I have a twin brother. So, I was always labeled as one of the Norton twins, versus I don't think I was called my name until I graduated from college.
Great.
So that's something I'm also very sensitive to and it's different with boy girl twins, but at the same time they need their sort of one-on-one time with either Katie or I as frequently as possible.
Yeah. Everyone gets along pretty well. How do the kids do dynamically?
Everyone gets along, but there's the normal, the older sister knows how to kind of get in there and jab a bit.
Yeah.
And so the twins generally have a soft spot for each other, so they don't fight as much, but the older sibling will sometimes stir the pot.
The twins very much have a relationship like Katie and I would say, where they have their strengths and weaknesses, and they leverage each other a lot. I think our older daughter doesn't have that type of relationship with either of the siblings, but it's very clear that all of our children love each other, and that's very important. And they do the typical things, the elbow in the back seat of the car type thing that you expect, but for the most part, they're good.
You guys haven't threatened to turn the car around ever, have you?
All the time.
It's more just having.
That's my favorite part of the vacation.
It's more that you're gonna walk from here instead of turning the car around.
Oh yeah, I mean it's not always rosy, Matt, as you know.
Oh, please, if my family's a sitcom, and I got a text right before this about the dog, and I just look at it, I'm like, come on, life's really hard right now. There's a pandemic. There's social unrest. My work is all over the place, and the dog's eating dish rags. I'm like, I just don't need it.
Yeah.
But needless to say, that's what happens. Well, look.
We have something every day too.
Yeah, we have.
Every day something comes up.
It's interesting. I think we live in a relatively small town, And we really, when we had the twins and we decided to move back from the Bay Area to Chicago, we really moved into Katie's bubble. So her parents live a mile from us. Her sister is 2 blocks away, and her parents especially sort of view our family as a sitcom, and not in a bad way necessarily,
Just
but
purely entertainment.
But if they need to be entertained, they can just swing by, and they do very frequently, which is awesome. Candidly,
now they call.
Yeah, I without question hit the in-law lottery. Katie's parents are wonderful people, but they stop by all the time just to eat popcorn and watch the chaos unfold.
Yeah, my mom does the same thing to me. My son is a clone of me, built the same, acts the same, and my mom just smiles. I go, what? She goes, how's it feel? He won't eat anything, will he? I'm like, no, he won't eat. Because I was the same. I never ate and made my mom insane. And
yep, it's unbelievable how that works.
Yeah, Katie's mom likes that. Our younger daughter, I think, reminds Katie's mom of Katie. And so she always just says, wait till high school, wait till high school, wait till high school. So.
Yeah, we got a couple calls from the teacher, and my mom just started to laugh because she used to get calls all the time about me. I was not well behaved.
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, well, there's a file that says differently. So anyhow, but look, I can't tell you how.
I have one of those files too, Matt. So we're good. That's why we like each other so much.
We're gonna have to have a glass of something because I didn't know that.
Yeah. From one rule follower to another there.
Yeah, I normally don't. The kids always say, I know you don't follow the rules. I'm like, no, I don't. Well, look, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. This is exactly what I envisioned when I thought of this conversation.
Well, this was fun.
Yeah,
thank you.
Great. It's a nice
break.
Reprieve from the election, school, corona madness that's
it's just good for people to know that this is how it looks when you look at someone's career and life holistically. This is what it is. It's not beautiful. It's messy and it's funny. And there are times where you make mistakes. And so I just thought it would be great for other people to see, look, they're doing it and doing it very well. But behind the scenes, there's dogs barking and doorbells ringing and stuff going on.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what it is.
What the downstairs is going to look like when we get down there.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. From the family business where family is what binds us, this is Evan Norton and Katie Arnold, two of the good ones. Thanks for joining.
Thanks,
Thank
Matt.
you.
Really nice to see you.
Thank you.
Best of your years.
Take care, guys.